so they will go out there trying to keep as much heat in as possible. And with the heat down there in Sicily, believe me, that track is very warm to start with, and it won't take a great deal on this very long, very fast circuit of weaving around to keep the temperature up. So when they get back to the start, they will have very good grip in those tyres ready for the start. What you've got to do then is make sure you've got enough revs to get off the start line and not have too much grip and actually bog the car down. That's more so likely to happen with the front wheel drive cars than it is with the rear wheel drive cars.
Okay, alongside Tom Coronel, Rickard Rydell in the Volvo, and behind him David, both Seats getting to the start. So prodigious amounts of yellow tank tape, I would think, on Henri Genet's car, because that thing really was a bit of a shed, to say the very least. There's Coronel with the yellow mirrors. Right, so who's behind him? Another one of the Alphas. Let's have a look down the grid, and we won't have to do too much guessing after that. So Dirk Muller and Roberto Colciago we've got on row 4 of the grid. Then it should be Garcia and Giovanardi on row 5 of the grid. Coronel inside row 6, and who is alongside him? Ruberti. So having a little scribble on my sheet of paper, which we do the lap charting on. Then Heisman and Rydell. Koto in his Soul now Honda, ahead of Genet and Diefenbacher. And we saw the other Volvo in the pits. Sardelli wasn't at the pit exit as they set off on the warm-up lap, and I have to say I'm not entirely sure that he is going to make an appearance in the race. So I think that for whatever reason, Sardelli's car has gone the way of all good flesh, all good things, and disappeared. It was at a standstill and not looking like it was going to rejoin. So then Baltzan, yellow door mirrors. Let's make a note of all these identifying marks, you mentally and me on my piece of paper. Onboard camera with Andy Priaulx, and another good race result from Priaulx, starting on the inside of row 3, so behind Baltzan and Jörg Muller. And I imagine if I was Andy Priaulx, I would be using Jörg Muller as the can opener, and I would follow him hopefully through into the first couple of cars. I reckon it may well be out of the first corner, may well be Jörg Muller and Andy Priaulx first and second, but we'll have to wait and see how that one pans out. Tom Coronel, Paolo Ruberti there, ahead of the other Carli Motorsport car of Duncan Heisman. And Balzan with Nicola Larini, and that on the windscreen strip below Larini's name, you can see the big plus 40 on that. Ditto on Jörg Muller's car, and that 40 kilos of weight here, with so much heavy braking and so much acceleration, really makes a big difference. White bottom to the splitter there for Francia, and that makes him easy, as I said, to identify from the Auto Delta cars. And David now with the extra weights that particularly I would have thought would affect the rear-wheel drive cars even more, the front-wheel drive cars even more than the rear-wheel drives rather, because of course so much of the work is done by the front tyres on those cars, and the more weight it is, the quicker they're likely to go off and die.
That's right, but it showed up very well in the first race. You know, those guys with the weight were further back and were struggling to get around and get the times to be even somewhere near the front. You have to qualify near the front to be able to win, and this is what makes this part of the racing so exciting, having turned the first 8 cars around. So now it's all mixed up as to the first race and all the qualifying that went on before then. That was a 5-second board. In 5 seconds the red lights will come on, and they will go off and it will turn to green, and we start the next round.
Jörg Muller incidentally still leads the championship. The pole man goes nowhere, or was that Larini going nowhere? That was Larini going nowhere. Baltzan leads, Jörg Muller second, Andy Priaulx in third place, as I predicted, except for Larini fluffing the start monstrously, and Larini rejoins just in front of Andre Koto. Big BMW slide fest going on there. Oh, behind Francia. Francia's got a puncture or something, and so is one of the BMs. 2 cars there with broken suspension. Jörg Muller leads in second place now. Baltzan has moved up to second ahead of Andy Priaulx. Right behind him, I think, is Tarquini. White mirrors, no, Francia, then Tarquini, and Francia looking around. Priaulx on board with the number 4 car, and that is Tarquini. And that is, whoops, okay, well, in that case, plus 10 is Tarquini. So Muller leads. Balzan in second place, Tarquini up to third, Andy Prio in fourth place. Now, what's happened to Prio's car? Why has he dropped back? On board with Tarquini, just with a 10 kilo weight penalty, which gives him a big advantage over Muller. Next white car, well, let's have a look further back. There's the two Carli Motorsport cars, one of the Ravaglia cars. Next back, the three BMWs all together. Look further back, three BMWs all together, and the Ravaglia car of Giovanardi or Garcia, whichever it was definitely bottled up at the start. On board with car number 3, and this is the recovery, hopefully, of Nicola Larini. Well, Larini, there he is right at the back there somewhere. Wow, what a topsy-turvy opening lap.
The Alfa Romeos are certainly using the power that they've got along the straights, because Andy Prio, who's just come backwards, every time he's come onto a straight, the Alfa Romeos have been able to pull up behind him, slipstream, pull out and outbrake him into the next corner. But we can see now, up into fourth place is Roberto Colgiaggio, so he started back in 8th, he's up to 4th already. And number 24, that was...
that's Balzan, the pole man, and Colgiaggio looking to make a move to go up as well.
I'm very sure that the privateers, Balzans of this world will give way to the works cars. I think that's all part and parcel of making sure you get the best bits for your car from the works team, just to make sure you look after the works drivers and not hold them up too much.
Well, absolutely. The other thing, of course, is that they have an independence trophy that they're racing for, and all he needs to do is stay ahead of the Carli Motorsport cars. Right in between them, you can see Giovanardi. There is Prio trying to get back past Balzan, on board with Andy Prio in the BMW GB entry, and Balzan, just a little puff of smoke there as he rockets over those curbs. This is the back section. Oh dear, there's Dirk Muller, and our BMW challenge from Dirk Muller has also fallen by the wayside. Dirk Muller, I don't think, will even finish the race.
That's a great pity, having had such a great race, the first one, and finished in second place, but he somehow got involved in those incidents off the start line and got turned sideways into the first corner, and that somehow or another did the damage to the back of the car and caused him this retirement. Well,
you saw Larini there closing up on the two Carli Motorsport cars of Coronel and Heisman, and they come through. In fact, he's passed Heisman. Tom Coronel locks up right behind Andy Prio. Prio rides the curbs in the BMW GB car. Puncture for Dirk Muller, and a door thrown open. Now, whether he was going to get out and retire or whether he was just baking hot, I don't know. But still, our race leader is his teammate and compatriot Jörg Muller, on board with Nicola Larini. And Larini now ahead, I think, of both Carli Motorsport cars. Yes, he is. Look, and it's Andy Prio next in front of him. There's Jörg Muller. Gabriele Tarquini in second place. And Colciago in third, I think now. Yes, he is. Balzan down to 4th. So lots of feverish scribbling on the lap charts here. Jörg Muller leads, Tarquini second, Colciago in third place. And here comes Tarquini, pulls out. He's got 30 kilos less weight under acceleration. He can brake 30 kilos later, whatever that translates as. One blink of the eyelids, I think, probably. But it's just enough to take the lead. Gabriele Tarquini, who last year did nothing here at all. He wasn't racing in the championship, of course, in the 2002 series. Raced in 2001 at the end of the Euro STC for Honda. And also moving up into second place, Colciago at the expense of Jörg Muller. And as Jörg predicted before the race, he said, I think I'm going to drop back, and I just don't want to drop back too far. Jörg Muller, the championship leader by 7 points coming into this race over Gabriele Tarquini in second place. 26 for Tarquini, 33 for Jörg Muller. And if Muller can limit the damage here, he may just narrowly hang on to a lead, but Muller outbrakes himself, goes off, loses 2 places, and the Italians love that. Forza Alfa, they'll be cheering there, among other Italian expressions.
I'm not sure what happened there. That was certainly a mistake. As we said earlier, Muller was looking to drop back and have a good finish. He knows he's got a good championship lead at the moment. He needs to keep scoring points and scoring good points. He certainly didn't want to get into a tangle with the two Alfa Romeos at the front, with Colgiajo and with Tarquini, and thinking if he could finish a nice happy third, that would still keep him a championship lead at the end of this race. But that mistake has certainly cost him.
Into the pits. Now, I wonder if he's got a puncture or some other problem, but he just came into the pits out of that final chicane. That was the last chicane, and there is Giovanardi off the road. Wow, all the front runners, apart from the red ones, falling by the wayside. Well, we heard from Fabrizio yesterday in our evening live programme from the paddock here, and the question was asked of him, what does it take to win here at Enna? And he said, I don't really know. Well, of course, we said the answer was a red car, and David, it is looking increasingly like that. The first race competitiveness of the BMWs, that seems to be a thing of history now. Andy Prio here in fourth, the only BM with any chance.
It is. Out of 6 cars at the front, there's only one BMW, and the other 5 are all Alfa Romeos. I think Andy's done a good job. He was a little bit tied up at the beginning. The Alfas did rather crowd him on the first lap. They had that extra speed along the straights to be able to push him out and get underneath him, breaking into the chicanes, and pushed him down a little bit. But he's hung on in there. He's kept his nose clean, and he's driving with a very good head on his shoulders and making sure he can get to the finish, which is something unfortunately the rest of the BMWs, for one reason or another, have not yet been able to do.
Now, the big question with such a big lead over third place is whether Colciago will have his radio crackle into life and be asked not to threaten Gabriele Tarquini. Tarquini, the best placed Alfa driver at the moment, but 5 of the 20 races gone. This is race 6. I think it's perhaps a shade early to be protecting your drivers. However, what the Nord Auto team, Auto Delta team, really don't want is for the lead pair to get involved and knock each other off, and God forbid give a race win to the BMW of Andy Prio. So we'll have to wait and see. Balzan still in third ahead of Prio, and to be fair to Prio, he doesn't look like he's going to be able to catch or pass Alessandro Balzan at the moment. He's keeping his nose to the grindstone and nobody's catching him. Colciago again fastest man on the track. Well, we'll have to wait and see how this one pans out.
Now, these 2 guys at the front, they know what they're doing. They're very experienced, and Tarquini will be looking for a race win. He's got himself at the moment in second place in the championship, and he knows a good win here will give him the points that will actually send him straight to the lead of this championship. And he'll be trying hard not to make any mistakes, not to catch those tyres, just as Colgiajo did. Just clipped them on the way through. You just seen it bounce a little bit as he went through there. As I said before, these guys so precise to get as much speed out of that chicane as possible along these big long straights that follow afterwards.
Yeah, you really do have to judge it to the millimetre, and inevitably you're going to misjudge it just once or twice. Now, Colciago not content from that shot, David, to stay behind, is he? I think he's really looking to pile the pressure on Tarquini. He wants to win both races here, and at the moment it looks as though Tarquini has just about got him under containment. But of course, Gabriele with an extra 10 kilos weight in the car doesn't sound like an awful lot, but 20 pounds, well, that's nearly 1.5 stone, and that is quite a lot of extra to be accelerating and braking. And you can see it because Tarquini's starting to lock wheels. Colciago is not yet.
The extra weight just makes that little bit of difference. It does slow you down. It doesn't sound very much, as you said before, but once you've got it in the car, then certainly you start to feel it. And as you said, if you start to lock a wheel, once you start to lock a tyre, then the tyres get worse and worse as they go along. So if they do have what they call a brake balance bar inside the car, so you can change the brake bias from the front to the rear depending on what's happening. And usually as these races go along, as the front starts to lock, you would turn that brake balance bar slightly towards the rear to try and stop the front from locking, and try and give the front tyres a little bit more life towards the end of the race and not deteriorate them as quickly as possible.
Well, look at Colciago. He's showing Tarquini the nose. I don't think there's any doubt that Gabriele knows he's there, but Roberto is really starting to work as if it was a BMW in front of him and not his Auto Delta teammate. They really do run out wide there, right up towards the barriers. And although this is a beautiful looking circuit with those olive trees and the shade trees all the way around, it really is an alley of Armco right up. Looks so little room for manoeuvre if you get it wrong here. And at the speeds that they've got, as we just saw from the outside what's happening here, Andy Priaulx having a look at Alessandro Balzan. And as the race continues, assuming they're on the tyres they used in race 1 and they haven't had a crafty set of new tyres kept over from qualifying, I was about to mention earlier on that Priaulx is staying away from Nicola Larini, who's in 5th. Larini carrying 40 kilos of success ballast, which he will be shedding some of at least. Jörg Müller, I think, will also be shedding a fair amount of his. But Priaulx now starting to look for a place on the podium. And David, with 5 laps, I think he's probably got enough time to start levering away up to 3rd place as well, if he can pile on the pressure to Balzan.
I'm sure he will. He every now and again he gets a bit closer, then really tries a bit, and when you dive down to the inside, it makes coming out of the corner not quite so good, and he lost a little bit on that time, but he will get there, and he will make sure that, you know, one of these times he'll come out that little bit quicker and get that tow along the straight. He tends to be a little bit not quite as quick in these bits here through the middle of the chicane. You can see Balzan just pulling away a little bit there, and when he comes out he's too far back to get that draft, to be able to go past him. He can draft a little bit and pull up towards him as he gets to the end of the straight into the next chicane, but unfortunately not nowhere near close enough to be able to go past.
Well, it seems maybe that the Alphas running softer, springing here, able to ride the curbs a little better, keep the wheels in contact with the ground better, and the BMWs perhaps just demand a firmer setup to really control the car as they need to. Down that beautiful sunshade avenue, that must be really a phenomenal place to be on track around this Enna Speed Bowl. It's so demanding a circuit. I don't suppose any driver would ever really consider it to be their favourite track, but with the huge speeds and then the demands of these 3 or 4 major braking points every lap, it certainly keeps the drivers working hard.
You can see them working very hard there. You can see Tarquini locking a front wheel as he goes in there. He's turning and braking at the same time, and all the weight is going over onto the right hand side, and the left hand wheel becoming a little bit lighter. It's just locking up a little bit, and I'm sure he notices that when he's in there. He notices little things when you're at this level of motorsport, and he'll be taking that into consideration, as I said before, and probably a little half turn on the brake bias.
Now we're just hearing from the pits that the 42 BMW of Jörg Müller had an engine problem, so that's the problem with the speed there, maybe getting a little too much revs in the slipstream. Ricard Rydell in with the Volvo. First time we've seen poor Ricard all year, and it's because he's cruising into the pits now. The problem with the slipstream, well, if you've geared your car perfectly on its own for maximum revs at the fastest part of the circuit, if you're in a slipstream you will pick up more revs, and tyre squeal behind. What happened there? Well, it was from a different camera microphone, clearly, because we're on board with Priaulx, and here's Balzan right in front of us. Andy keeping it nailed, but still tantalisingly just out of reach of the Italian. Balzan is doing a great job here of staying out of harm's way, David.
He is. He's just fast enough to stay in front of Andy, and making sure that Andy stays behind and doesn't get past and come close to these two, the two works cars at the front. And certainly when Alfa Romeo have so many cars in this race, they can use the privateers to try and put people between their own works cars and the works BMWs. Then that keeps the points away from the BMWs and will help the Manufacturers' Championship points tremendously in this race, looking at it for Alfa Romeo compared to the BMW.
Colciago was shaping up another move on Tarquini, and Gabrielli saw it coming. It didn't happen. Do you know, I think though that 3rd and 4th are getting closer to 1st and 2nd, just by a fraction. It is only a tiny fraction, but they were 3.0 behind. They're now 2.3 behind a few laps later. So the leaders, although Colciago is credited with the fastest lap of the race, that was 4 or 5 laps ago, and I think the leaders are slowing. The gap between 2nd and 3rd is shrinking. It shrunk by a second in the last 3 or 4 laps, and that means that Tarquini is slower than Priaulx, in fact, and he is slowing he's slowing himself and Colciago down, and the others catching up. There is Canet. Just to add insult to injury, that looks like contact with a tyre stack has caused the damage there, and in the end set you see the outside view of the leaders going by.
That was a pity for the seat there. The other seat is actually doing quite well. Diefenbach is up into 8th place, and they had a very good finish, albeit I think very lucky at the last race where they finished 6th. If they can have an 8th place round here, one of the more quicker circuits that they go to, I think they'll be quite happy with that. But unfortunately nowhere near these cars at the front of the race, which is the Alfa Romeos and the BMWs, who are certainly in a class of their own at the moment.
Well, nowhere near the development that the cars have got in the Alfa Romeo or the BMW camp either from Seat, who only really pushed the green light on that project at the Christmas break. So commendable to be getting even close to the points at the moment, and the Toledo Sport, they feel, has got an awful lot of potential at the moment. Not so much of it is recognised as it is latent. 2 to go as they start this one. Tarquini still from Colciago, 3rd place still Alessandro Balzan, 4th Andy Prio, and it's really been a race of attrition for BMW. Dirk Müller out with a puncture, Jörg Müller with a gone engine. We saw Giovanardi spinning it away into the field after dropping out of race 1, twacking the tyre stacks. And well, the best BMWs are the BMW GB car of Andy Prio, currently in 4th, and then in 6th and 7th, Tom Coronel and Duncan Heisman. Or in fact, Diefenbach has got in front of them. Coronel and Heisman are dropping down the order as they're being passed by the Alphas as well. So the BMW's really suffering here. Now, of course, that's the boot on the other foot when they go to somewhere like Oschersleben, a tight and twisty track, which is very much BMW territory, but at the high-speed Enna, it's still very much an Alpha ball game here. Well, as they finish this, they'll be going on to the last lap. If Gabrielli stays away from the tyres, they will. And I've noticed how much the Alfa in front of us now as we ride with Prio slides into corners under turning. He turns and steers with the front end and lets the back sort itself out. And as a result, when he turns in under braking, you can quite often see Balzan's car just sliding in. And that helps, of course, get the nose up to the apex. Prio having a look, a little bit of a look anyway, just to try and put the pressure on, maybe for a last lap lunge into this final chicane for the next time round.
I think if Andy Prio can line himself up coming out of the Schumacher chicane, that's the best chance he's got, is into that last chicane, the one we've just seen there, and that seems to be where he's closest to Balzan at any one point round this lap. So he's really got to get himself lined up, knowing that he's got one opportunity, and that's outbraking into that last chicane.
Unless, of course, he was using an attempted move there as a disguise and hoping to get Balzan somewhere else where he's not shown his nose. Balzan bouncing over the curbs there. Prio is as close as he's ever been. That was a definite mistake from Balzan through the last element of the first chicane. Now on the long run round to Prosperina, the big double chicane section on the back as they go past what used to be the start-finish area in the 1960s. Then down to the double element Prosperina. And a big slide from Colciago, really trying to close up on Tarquini, but it didn't work. Now, can Prio get enough of a toe here to get a run through Schumacher as we see a Seat on the side of the field, side of the track further back? That looks like Genet didn't even make it into the pit lane then. Whoops, and Tarquini again hits the tyres, and again Colciago flies wide. Let's see, on board with Andy Prio. David shakes his head, not close enough, David.
No, I don't think so. It's not quite close enough to get that run down into the last chicane. But you have to say he's done a fantastic job here. He's hung in there, he's been dogging away at the Alfa Romeos. The Alfa Romeos we knew were going to be dominant here this weekend. We said that at the beginning of the programme, and sure enough they've proved us right.
Again, beating the factory BMWs and the Ravaglia cars and the Carli Motorsport cars and everybody else. A big slide out of the final corner for Prio. He won't get on the podium. It's Tarquini that wins race 6 of the European Touring Car Championship. Race 1 winner here, Roberto Colciago in 2nd place. Dogged him all the way, and Alessandro Balzan, top independent, in 3rd place. And you saw Monica Six there on the team wall applauding all her team across the line. Nicola Larini coming home in 5th place. That's useful points for him, especially as neither Schnitzer driver Dirk Müller and Jörg Müller finished, and Fabrizio Giovanardi, the reigning champion and double race winner here for Alfa last year, also failed to finish round 6. So Monica Sips again congratulating her team, hugging and waving to everybody, and the Italian fans will have loved that one. Toyota t-shirt, shame on you. So there's the result then. Tarquini, Colciago, Balzan an all-red podium. Prio, the best of the BMs. And then Antonio Garcia in 7th place ahead of Tom Coronel. Coronel gets 3rd place in the independence race though. We'll be back with more in just a second, live from Enna. Stay with us.
The LG Super Racing Weekend live.
Live in Enna as Gabriele Tarquini, the Spider-Man helmet, receives congratulations for victory here and moves into the championship leads, thanks to David Leslie for the mental arithmetic. Let's have a word then with Gabriele. Come on, Gabriele, get the helmet off and we'll hear from you. So, points lead then for Tarquini, 36 points to Jörg Muller's 33. He came here as championship leader but failed to finish. Nicola Larini drops from 2nd to 3rd in the points on 27, as in 4th place tied Andy Prio and Roberto Colciago, who jumps up from 10th place in the point standings. Dirk Muller, who failed to score in this race, is 6th place. Fabrizio Giovanardi way back.
Gabriele Tarquini, how does it feel to win in front of all the tifosi behind us here?
Yeah, it's beautiful, wonderful, because we make victory in the first, a victory in the second, starting 6, I think, or 7. So it's a great performance for Alfa. We know that this track is very good for us, and so we show our potential, and I improve a lot on the grid and also on the point.
And now for the championship, you have the same amount of points as Jörg Müller. This is also very good for you.
Yeah, very good, because the gap between Jörg and me was very big after Magny-Cours, because I didn't score on the second race of Magny-Cours. So it's beautiful to lead the championship with Jörg. I don't know yet the championship, but you know me that you tell me that this is the leader position.
Thank you.
Yes, in fact, David has retotted everything up, and that is correct. 36 points each, Tarquini and Jörg Müller. So Alfa Romeo and BMW level pegging, and Gabriele with 3rd in race 1 and victory in race 2. Colciago, winner of race 1, 2nd place in race 2, and good result from Alessandro Balzan, who started from the front row of the grid here in race 2, having finished 8th. He hung on for a podium finish in 3rd. And Andy Prio, 4th in the points, tied with Roberto Colciago, with 2 4th place finishes here. Another great race weekend for Andy Prio.